Ten Hag's ruthlessness as Manchester United manager has, in my opinion, been one of the things he's absolutely got right so far at this club. Whether it's removing the captaincy from Maguire, whether it's the Ronaldo situation, whether it's the Jadon Sancho situation this season. I think it's what he's got spot on. And I think he's got to continue this ruthlessness streak. And unfortunately for him, I think he's coming to a point where he's going to have to make some of the toughest ones so far. Because it's all well and good getting rid of players that you clash with. But what about the players that you've trusted that are now letting you down? It's a more difficult part of management, but I think Ten Hag's got to apply the same sort of logic and ruthlessness. I'll explain it in this video. You can let me know what you think about it in the comments below. But that goal from McTominay gave Erik Ten Hag and Manchester United a much-needed win. We desperately needed that, but it doesn't take away from the problems that we saw in that game, the problems that we've seen all season long so far. And I don't think we're going to really change properly unless Ten Hag changes those. Now, the Jadon Sancho situation this season is probably the biggest element of ruthlessness that Ten Hag has had. Completely stand by it. Sancho doesn't want to apologise up until this point. Jeez, man, there's no way you can come back into the team. Because if Ten Hag was to all of a sudden pivot and change his position on Sancho, he completely undermines his own authority. And it would have far more ripple effects inside that squad and that dressing room. But with Ten Hag now, it's not just these two. There are more problems. But Casemiro and Rashford, last season, were Ten Hag's probably two most trusted players. Right? From a Rashford point of view, he's looked so not himself. I think he scored 1 goal this season for Man United, scored 30 last year. He's totally lost, devoid of confidence. But honestly, I'm not too worried about Rashford. That might be a strange thing for me to say, given how the season's gone so far. But I think the solution for Rashford, it feels quite simple. Bring Garnacho in, a player who's incredibly talented and a player who we know he comes in, and Man United have got a real quality on that left-hand side. It's not taking Rashford out for the sake of it. Take Rashford out, put Garnacho in, let them play against each other, competitive nature and all that jazz, and I think Rashford will come good across the course of the season. I might be wrong in that, but I'm not as worried about Rashford as I am about Casemiro. I think Casemiro is a bigger problem. Let me explain that. This is a Casemiro player who went from being called the cement between the stones, the player who kept everything together, the player who last season when he took Casemiro out of Manchester United's team, we looked like Sunday League by comparison. And you look at Casemiro this season and the amount of basic errors that he's making consistently, it's extremely worrying. It's not to do with fitness anymore. I don't think it's to do with athletic ability. Certain parts of it are, and I'll speak about those in a second, the tactical problems. But so much is up there with Casemiro at this moment in time, or isn't up there. Is it concentration? Is it an age thing? Ten Hag has got to figure that out. Because from a tactical perspective, Ten Hag left Casemiro exposed at the start of the season, right? We played with Mason Mount and Bruno as two aggressive number 8s. We were turning over the possession more than any team in the Premier League in the final third. It was working. We weren't converting the chances because Højlund wasn't in yet. If we were doing that now and we had Højlund in, well, it might be a different story. But Casemiro was left massively exposed. Mount and Bruno with their aggressive press. Casemiro coming up quite high up the pitch behind them. When anybody missed their lunge, Casemiro was isolated, exposed. And he doesn't have the athletic ability anymore to cover all that ground on his own. So I think from a tactical perspective, and again, I'm going to cover this later this week, I think this is where we're going to see a slightly different version of United now. Amrabat playing in midfield was always supposed to be the plan, right? That's what we signed him for. We thought that Amrabat was going to be an alternative to Casemiro. But I think he's going to have to be a partner to Casemiro. And that's what I mean about the tactical switch. I think it's gone from playing Mount and Bruno together with Casemiro as one defensive midfielder to playing Amrabat and Casemiro as one of the sort of more box-to-box midfielders, having a little bit less defensive responsibility, and then Bruno being the other number 8. It's got to change and it's got to tweak because I don't think Manchester United can have a massive... Hey, look, we've got Kobbie Mainoo coming back. Christian Eriksen can play a role in there as well. But Casemiro needs to find his feet. Ten Hag needs to find a solution. Might be temporary, But he needs to find a solution because that aggressive 2 number 8 system won't work with Casemiro in. Might work with Amrabat in, and maybe you take Casemiro out, and maybe that's where the ruthlessness comes in. That's what I mean. It's going to be difficult for Ten Hag, given that he called him. I mean, Casemiro was his guy. Now he's not. And I'll tell you who else was his guy previously. Not at Manchester United, but Onana at Ajax, of course, was Erik Ten Hag's guy. Now, can we say one thing at the start here before I speak about Onana? Do not pretend to me that overnight Onana has become an abysmal goalkeeper. This is a goalkeeper who Pep Guardiola absolutely praised before their Champions League game and after the Champions League final as well. For the way they play with a high press, Onana is an exceptional goalkeeper. To take the position to build up, really, really good. Identifying the space and emptying the midfield is a special quality. Normally teams have great keepers, but Onana is exceptional with his feet. Onana has been everything but exceptional at Manchester United though, and that is a big problem. And in my opinion, these are the 2 biggest problems that Ten Hag faces. Rashford, I think, is a problem that will correct itself across the course of the season because we've got Garnacho there. Casemiro, I don't know. I really don't know. And Onana, I don't quite know the solution to this one either. Because Onana is a great goalkeeper. He has been at Ajax. He has been at Inter. And he should be at Manchester United. But every single facet of his game right now, he's underperforming. It's not as if Onana is being brilliant with his feet. Distribution-wise, it's not helping him at all. You know, in the same way I'm saying that Casemiro wasn't helped by that tactical system and leaving him slightly isolated. Onana has absolutely not been helped, wrong photo, has not been helped by the fact that Martinez, Shaw, Varane and Wan-Bissaka, he's not playing in front of a settled back 4. We're not playing out from the back. We're not playing the system that Onana is used to and fits. But at the same time, his long passing was never the great strength of his game. People are going to be looking at David Raya and saying, well, that was always a really good strength of David Raya's game. Quick release passes, long diagonals, and he's very good at them. Onana was never as naturally as good as those, as he is with the ball at his feet. Short, play under pressure. We're not doing that. So tactically, we're not doing the sort of system that Onana needs. But at the same time, Onana's making some, just like Casemiro, basic individual errors. And at the elite level, you just can't have these. As a goalkeeper, you definitely can't have them because they lead to goals. That one against Bayern, biscuit hands. That one there against Brentford as well. There's no way he should have saved both of those. And I've got absolutely no doubt that Onana is a top-level goalkeeper because he is. But he's not at United. And Ten Hag has got to identify exactly what is causing that. Is it the pressures of playing at United? Is it settling into living in Manchester? Is it the system? Is it the tactics? What is it, Andre, that is not helping you? Because you need to help yourself, and Ten Hag needs to somehow get Onana playing back to it. And if it's needed from a ruthlessness perspective, then we're going to have to see buy-in there. Ten Hag's going to have to make the call on Onana. Now, Casemiro and Rashford both got far more leeway than most players would because they were his trusted lieutenants last season. I think Onana's probably going to get more leeway than most players would because he's a new signing. Ten Hag has trusted him before at Ajax, and that trust was, rewarded. But these, for me, are the 2 biggest problems, is Onana and Casemiro, two huge players in this team that just at this moment in time are performing at like a 3 out of 10 overall, given their ability to their performances. Ten Hag as a coach has got to find out the solutions to those problems. I don't really think that Rashford will be this much of a problem all season long. I like to think that it will correct itself and that Garnacho coming in and that competitive edge will make Rashford find his feet. But if it's not that, well, Ten Hag's going to have to find a way to coach the best out of him, just like he has before. But it's the international break, and these sorts of questions that Ten Hag might not have had time to find solutions for, given you're playing every 3 days. We've got 2 weeks now, and it's up to Erik to find those solutions. You let me know what you think in the comments below. But yeah, that ruthless streak of Erik Ten Hag has been, for me, one of his greatest strengths so far. And if he can't find solutions for Casemiro, for Onana, for Rashford, then that ruthlessness has got to apply again. But I like to think that he'll be able to figure out what's going on and get the best out of these players and cut out these basic individual errors.